Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Author Live Chat with Fans. And today, Tuesday, September 29th, 2022, 8 p.m. CST, Tuesday series, we have fiction author with us today to talk about his latest book. And I'm so happy to have him on the show. Glend Martinez. Glend is anything but your ordinary high school junior. He deals with the struggles of his life, filled with poverty, homosexuality, abuse, malnourishment, and envy. One day he meets X, and the roller coaster of teenage love begins. He finds a new high to distract him from his home life. Everything is going great until X begins dating a new girl while still dating Glenn. Now X has a girlfriend and a secret boyfriend. So not your average manager choice, right? So how messy can things get? How long can Glenn keep the secret? Will they ever get caught? This is a fiction story. It's surrounding homosexuality, LGBTQ romance, and let's see what the author has to say about the book, about himself more. Let's welcome him to the show. Hello, Glenn. Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
I have actually briefly introduced yourself in the introductory session, but I think it would be great to have you say a few things about yourself to the audience, something that we do not know. Yeah.
Okay, well, my name is Glenn. I live in Miami. Yesterday was my birthday and I just turned 27. um, I have like no experience in writing. Like this is the first book that I've ever made. So I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm taking it day by day. And obviously like I'm gay. So it was the first time I have ever written a book. And I didn't even intentionally plan on, writing it. So I think it's super cool that, like I had gotten this far knowing where I came from,
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome.
Right. And happy birthday, happy
Thank
belated
you. Thank you.
birthday. Right. So we were supposed to do this last week, but I think it was your birthday week, and we
Yeah.
decided to have it today. So thank you so much for that. And so, Glenn, you mentioned that this is your first book and first time writing, and you know, and you chose to write fiction, right? So. Why did you decide to write? Like I believe.
The way I started was during COVID. I created a blog, and it was on WordPress, and it wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't originally supposed to be a book. So when like in the peak of COVID, when everybody was home, I would post like a chapter. I guess like originally it was supposed. The book itself is based on my life. It's fictional because I changed the characters, but it's based off my life. So originally during COVID, it started off as a blog, and I would write like different posts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. The main
Yeah.
character, which is me, falls in love with somebody named X. And during the time, like when I was writing it as a blog, I named him X because nobody knew his identity. Nobody knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
So originally everybody around me, like people from high school, they would read the blog and they would see whether or not, like they were trying to figure out who it was. And then
Mm-hmm.
that stemmed into like it went from 100 views to 1,000 views to 15,000 views. People
Mm-hmm.
in like Canada were reading my blog. So
Mm-hmm.
this was like 2 years ago. So I didn't, like I said, like I didn't have no intention of like writing a book. And then a, a friend of a friend told me that I should make it into a book.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really take it that seriously. There, like I had again no knowledge or no like experience in writing, and the blog posts like had no type of organization or flow because they were just blog posts. Like I didn't really care about it. It took like 2 years for me to like actually like write like the book. And like last year I went through like a really big depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I was you know, I did a lot of things that I'm not very proud of. And
Mm-hmm.
I I told myself at the beginning of this year that one of the things that I was gonna do was like finish this book and like find a way to get it published, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like actually do it. So um I ended up finding a cover artist, which is
Mm-hmm.
also my she's a really good friend of mine. Her name is Hallie. She's also my graphic designer. And then I found two editors. And they helped me edit and structure the book. But aside from that, like there's so much more to releasing a book that I had no idea of, like ISBN numbers, copyrights, the difference between, you know, distributors and like going directly to like a market or like directly to someone who distributes the book, or instead of like, you know, Amazon, KDP, Kindle, Apple. Like I didn't know how to do any of those things. So it went from, mind you, I spent like 3 days on YouTube just
Mm-hmm.
reading and just writing and like just trying to figure out how to do it. And like actually, I have them right here. You can see the difference in like the original way the book was like
Mm-hmm.
come out, and how like I did like little edits to it, and
Mm.
like this is like the finished project.
Uh-huh.
So like you can see like how it's like progressing, or like how it has progressed. Um, I have sold almost 200 copies, which is
Uh-huh.
my book is not only available on Amazon. It's today I actually just got notification that it's on Apple, it's on
Ah.
Barnes and Noble, it's on Google Play.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ebooks. Those are the ebooks, and the printed copies are now going to be distributed like Target, Walmart, Amazon, through a distributor. But for most of the ebooks, I went directly like toward like the like Amazon or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right, fantastic. To all the viewers who have joined, thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions to ask Glenn, or probably say a few words of encouragement, you can type in the comment box, and we will display that on screen. Thank you for your encouragement, and thank you for your love. So, Glenn, you mentioned that it was a project. I mean, it was a blog. It started off as a blog first during COVID, right?
Mhm.
So, and you wanted to write about your life story. So now, coming out as gay, and I believe it takes tremendous courage to do that, right? So, could you like share us your
So the
experience?
way um it was very difficult for me, I guess, to come to terms with it. And in the book, like you see how I struggle in life, like as like a gay teenage boy, because at the time I was a gay teenage boy, and like there's a lot of like stereotypes. So um gay gay men are usually like gay teenage boys are usually portrayed as like, you know, rich, snobby, they don't have to go through anything. And um the book really normalizes because we're people, like, you know, like, and that's like it was extremely difficult to write it because it got me back to like a time where I wasn't really sure of myself. And in the book, you know, it takes you see how X like manipulates me, and like how I go through struggles. I have a homophobic stepfather who
Mm,
you know, makes it extremely difficult for me to like overcome, like I guess like in terms of like dealing with myself and loving myself. And like it's a like of self, like the fact that I would deal with so many issues like that, like it was a lot.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right. So we have a question from Safiro over here. How did you overcome the hardship you struggled with having straight partners?
So my book is actually a series. So you see, as I like, this is the first one, but I it's extremely difficult. So it's a very known thing. Like there's a lot of people who are in the closet who, they like experimenting with
Mhm.
you know, guys or girls, etc. And the book really shows people, like, it opens up a door that a lot of people didn't even think was there. And I talk about it in the
Mhm.
book, actually. And it's crazy because, what teenager doesn't like a relationship, and a normal boyfriend, girlfriend, normal, um is like, that's what, like, portrayed in the media. And in this book you see how, like, a lot of gay teenagers or LGBTQ teenagers are kept a
Mhm.
secret. It's like they feel like they're ashamed. And
Mhm.
I talk about that a lot in the book. And luckily now, I've come to terms with not dealing with straight men like that anymore, because it causes a lot of issues. I prefer now to be with people who are 100% out of the closet, because
Mhm.
you just you never really, like, they don't really, they're using you as a in a sense. So
Mm. Right, right. And I think Safiro, I think that answered your question of how he overcame the hardship of struggling with having straight partners. I think we all do that because we don't want to be judged, right? So probably you, as a gay teenager, you would have settled having straight partners just because of the stigma
right,
surrounding it, and coming out of closet and breaking the barrier, it takes a huge courage, and therefore I think it is wise now that you take decision to only be with someone who is 100% out of you
correct,
know closet, right? I mean, that's the only wavelength. I mean, then you both would be on the same wavelength.
correct.
So we have a question from Bianca. We hear, if you can go back and change anything about your relationship with ex, would you?
Um, yeah, so I would definitely change how I handled a lot of the situations at first, and how
Mhm.
naive I was. At the beginning, like, I was so in love with him that,
Uh-huh.
like, now, like, I would basically allow him to manipulate me and to get into my head so much, because I loved him. And I wish I was more firm, and I wouldn't have taken so much from him if I was actually, in love with myself. Like, it was more of a self-reflection type of thing. So if I could go back and change anything, it would definitely be like being more firm, like setting down. Like, the second I realized that he did not want to do anything, or he
Mhm.
didn't want to be out, I should have just left it at that. But 6 books later.
Uh-huh. Right. So, will there be more books? Tati has
Yes, yes.
she.
So there will be. It's a total of 6 books. So there's gonna be 5 books, and ideally, a new book is gonna be released every year. So next year I'll release a new book.
So, have you structured out the plans for the rest of
Yes,
the
actually, fun fact. I will always release my book in June 1st for Pride Month. And the LGBTQ flag, which is right here on the book.
books?
Um, it's 6 colors. So when you stack the book, it's gonna be the rainbow.
Ah,
That's
uh-huh.
awesome.
Right.
Yeah, so
Fantastic.
I've structured it. I've structured it for the most part.
Awesome. So there will be more books to discuss about. And
Yeah.
so since the first book is actually based off your life, um, you know, are the other books going to be
The other
also
books are gonna be about my life as well. It's yeah.
right,
So
right.
it's literally 6 books of me. It's extremely interesting, I promise.
Bianca say that's very creative. I mean, yes, that's actually very, very creative. And, it shows that you have given it a thorough planning process, like, a thorough plan
Yeah,
to
I try. Yeah, so it always gets released in June. So I think it's super cool. I think that the book in itself is extremely interesting. Usually, I've always been one to tell stories. Like that
Mm-hmm.
gets me into half of the problems that I'm in, but I'll digress. But so the fact that like I sit down and like actually write it out and like see people review it and like it, like it's awesome. Like I
Mm-hmm.
hope one day it becomes a show. I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it gives a room, a space for awareness for people out there, and I think to be more inclusive, right? So, Rob, there's a question from Rob. How was it adapting to rooming with two heterosexual men?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I have one now. I have one heterosexual roommate. His name is Chris. He's in his room playing video games right now. But I originally had two. It was him and my other friend Rob. And it was the funniest thing ever. Like I think it was absolutely hilarious. Um, have you ever seen the show New Girl?
Yeah.
It was basically like that kind of dynamic, but instead of the new girl, it's a gay guy. They were super overprotective of me. They were super understanding. They basically let me decorate anything that I wanted. They just had to move furniture. I cleaned.
Mm.
Um, um, Chris was originally from like upstate Florida, so he didn't really know anybody here. I got to introduce him to my friends. And Rob was originally from New York, and he moved here because of a friend. And it was cool that I got to include those like Rob and Chris into like my personal group of friends.
Mm.
They were super funny. We had so many fun laughs. Like it was a lot. It's hilarious. And
Mm.
um you would think that, I would eventually, like them or like hit on them, and it's nothing like that. Like the dynamic just worked. It was never anything weird. Like it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
You would
Mm-hmm.
you would enjoy watching our dynamic. It was funny. Like one time I yelled at them because they didn't buy scented trash bags.
Ah, right. So I think these people are actually a bunch of really supportive people. They understand you. They
Hmm.
are really nice to you, right? I mean, like not sidelining you for your sexuality,
Right,
and they're very, very warm and welcoming.
right.
Fantastic. Yeah, Tati says, she says, I want to just say congratulations. This is not an easy thing to do, to put your story out there to the public and to come so far. So it's a huge, it's such a big accomplishment with everything you have gone through, and it's amazing. So congratulations, and I'm sure your books will come show one day. Tati, thank you so much. And yes, we all believe, we all hope that. The kind of courage that you have to put your story out there, you know and to publicly say that, hey, although this is a fiction book, but it is actually based on my life.
Yeah,
It's a huge thing. So now it's like more like a fiction non-fiction kind of a thing, because
yeah.
you know
So
you've just changed the names of it. That's
the
about it, I
book
guess.
the book itself really expresses or like shows like a very dark or like what my life used to be like. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing like that anymore. Luckily I've progressed and I've accomplished things on my own, but growing up was extremely difficult for me. I was around a lot of abusive behavior. um I was around a lot of negative um people, negative factors. So in the book itself, not only do you see me fall in love with someone, but there's struggles outside of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, I had a super homophobic alcoholic stepfather
Mm-hmm.
who made my life super like extremely difficult. And he
Mm-hmm.
and in the book, those are things that I would never really talk about in high school. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was very cold. I was very mean in high school. So a lot of people didn't understand why. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I went through struggles like I wouldn't eat for days.
Mm-hmm.
We were extremely poor. So seeing now that like I'm in my apartment at 27, I've done so much the book, like when I read back in the book and I think about that used to be my life, um it's crazy. And that's what I want the book to be, you know, like there are so many people who go through struggles, not only just being gay, because that's not what the only thing the book is about. It's about
Mm-hmm.
struggles that people go through that nobody talks about, you know, like um depression, suicidal thoughts, poverty, you know, and it really opens your eyes because you see that the person that like you think how their life is, it's not really like that. They're actually
Mm-hmm.
going through so many struggles mentally, physically, emotionally. And I wanted to inspire people because when I was that age, I didn't have anybody to inspire me. You know, like I didn't look on in the TV and relate to a show. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
relate to a book, didn't relate to anybody, you know, and that's and I know I'm not the only one, you know, so but at the moment that's what you feel like. You feel like nobody gets you. So if I had this book back then, it would motivate me to be a 10 times way better person than, you know, than I could be. I had this book when I was my age, like when I was that age, like I'd be a completely different person. I would have inspired, I would have known that there is, you know, a way out. I throughout my 27 years, and if anything, especially last year I went through a huge depression, a huge depression. I was involved in a lot of things that I am not proud of, and I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. And I went down such a dark rabbit hole that I ended up like losing a bunch of people that truly mean a lot to me, you know, um and the fact that, you know, I have people now that pulled me out of that, and you know, I'm here today because like my friends love me, you know, like people love me. And when you're in such a dark deep hole like that, you don't feel loved, you actually hate yourself, you know. And um knowing that I don't feel that way anymore, and I this book is like a tribute to myself. Like it
Mm-hmm.
shows me, or it basically tells me that I did something and I progressed and I changed, and I, you know, I want to be better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So, I mean, in terms of your the family members, and what kind of feedback that you've gotten so far?
So
Uh,
my I have family here, like blood wise, it's my mom, and I have an older brother here.
mm-hmm.
My older brother and I, we talk every now and then, but we're not really that close. So growing up, it was always just me and my mom and my stepdad. Um, eventually, eventually I ended up like after high school, I ended up moving up north, upstate north, and you know, trying to get away from my mom because it was too much, you know. And I tried to spark or start my own life, and I'll eventually write about it, but I ended up doing, you know, a whole bunch of stupid things, and I ended up back home. I ended up back home. When I mean home, I mean Miami. But when I came back, um, I was homeless. I had nowhere to
Mm-hmm.
go. Um, and you know, I had nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
my at the time, my friend Annie, she told me I can stay on her couch, her and her family's couch, for like a
Mm-hmm.
week or two just to get on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
I was like 19, 20 at the time. And that those 2 weeks turned into, hey, you can just stay in this room a month or two, turned into 6 months, turned into a year, turned into 5 years. Her family actually showed me how to drive. They helped me get my license. They helped me get a job. They showed me how to keep a job. They treated me like family. I
Mm-hmm.
am part of their family. Um, the first the first page of my book is a
Mm-hmm.
dedication to that family.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
I don't think you can see it in that sample, Oh, right there. The Annie, Mirtha, Lourdes, and Pete. I have everything in my life because of them. Because
Mm.
like they they opened their doors to me. They helped me. Um, I do still speak to my mom. Me and my mom are on amazing terms now. And we progressed a lot, and as adults, I love my mom and we're good where we're at. But that family saved my life. They saved my life. They broke bread with me. They gave me everything. Everything that I have today is because of them. And every time I win something, or every time I pass a class, I get a promotion, they're the first ones cheering me on. They're the
Mhm.
first ones yelling at me when I get, when I start doing stupid stuff. um, Annie's the first one calling all my friends when I don't answer the phone because she's scared.
Mhm.
My siblings, like, they love me. They actually, Annie and Martha both have children. And I'm their uncle. I
Mm.
became part of their family. So um, when I mean like family, like my friends are my family. Like
Mhm.
the only
Mhm.
other family I have besides my mom is like my brother, and he wasn't really around.
Mhm.
So like, it's I don't want to say I have a hate for him, because I don't, but I don't have it's indifference. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
we called each other on like important dates, birthdays and whatnot, but like my family, my siblings, like it's Annie and Martha. Like, like
Mhm.
you can go into a store and shop for me. they
Friends who became family.
Yeah, and that's the point of this book, because like I said, when I was that age, look around, Christmas, I had no one. Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
nobody. But 3 days last week, Thanksgiving, I was on a table full of people, you know,
Mhm.
making jokes, like family, like, and I wasn't born into that. Like, I found that, like, somebody, extended their hand and gave me that. And I hope that that inspires people, and I hope that shows like the good in people. Because like, just because you don't have a family, like in high school, or just because you feel like you're not normal, or like you don't have a lot, you can get that. Like, you just have to you know find it, or look for it, or try. And
Mhm.
I hope this book shows people to try, because
Mhm.
you'll eventually get what you really want.
Awesome. Right. So, regarding your book now, since it's out and we can see quite a bit of reviews, and so out of all those feedbacks that you've gotten, like, any memorable ones that you.
Jordan, the first one. That is my favorite comment. Absolutely my favorite comment.
Uh-huh.
I think like she's so she actually married somebody who I went to high school with. So I don't
Mhm.
personally know her. Um
Mhm.
like, well, the other people who have bought the book, like, I know them. They bought the book and they love the book. But her is like, it's awesome, because you see somebody who doesn't actually know me, and actually loves the book, and actually, like, on her, like, she herself, like, promotes the book. Like, she tells me all the time that she tells people about the book, and that's awesome. Like, I think that, oh, look, yeah, that's her husband. I went to high school with him.
Mhm. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Yeah. So, yeah, you were saying, so that's the
That's my
favorite
favorite
comment,
comment. That is my
favorite feedback.
absolutely favorite comment.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So it says, I mean, like, I'm gonna like read it out. Give me all the tea and more. Uh, I read this book in one afternoon because I could not put it down. This book is so engaging, I couldn't find a stopping point because I needed to know what was happening next. The ending of the book has me all ready to buy. The next one is coming. Right. So, very well written and the perfect amount of drama. Read this along with my husband, who the whole time was saying, this needs to be made into a movie. An amazing wall story. Thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for sharing your story. And yeah, thank you, Glenn, for sharing your story. And I think, like Tati said, this definitely one day will become a show, because of the sheer amount of courage that you have to share your very own story. I mean, although it's fiction, but we all know now it's actually not fiction. It's actually based on your life, right? So, how did you feel, like, when people finally know that it's you, the
So,
characters?
so the people that personally know me have already always known that it's me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a reveal. What everybody wants to know is who X is because nobody's figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when it's like people who actually know me, like they try to drill me to finding out. Because in the
Mm-hmm.
book, I also talk about other guys in our high school. So if you went to high school with me, and in the book, like I explain it, you want to know who these people are because it's so interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
then um and then it's actually funny because in my next book, um I talk a lot about like a few other people that weren't mentioned in this book.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them have to do with certain like sports teams, like the soccer team, the baseball team, um, the football team, and like
Mm-hmm.
um, it's very interesting because people are like, "Oh my God, who is that?" So when you know me personally, you just want to know who everybody is, and then when you
Mm-hmm.
don't know me, like it's cool because you're just like, "Oh my God, who um this really happened? Like this is your life?" And it's like, yeah, that really happened.
Mm-hmm. So we have a few people over here, a couple of people over here asking how many people who, know who Axe is,
I am the only person that knows who he is.
and will we eventually know who Axe is?
Um, so I have not put um I don't think I'm gonna reveal it. Um
Uh-huh.
I have never said who he is. I That's just like a secret for now. And if you personally know me, like you're gonna have to kind of figure it out on your own.
So yeah, so that's going to be something that's going to stay mysterious
Mhm.
until the end, I guess. So now, for the readers out there, right? So those who are picking your book up, getting it on Amazon, even those who do not know who you are personally, what do you want to say to your readers out there, and what do you hope that they will take from the book?
So again, this is my first book, so I know I did a whole bunch of things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I've gotten a lot of positive reviews. So first and foremost, I would love to hear like people's opinion about the book, like things that they would like, would have liked more, things if maybe I rushed it too more, the language, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
more like a like feedback. That's what I would love from people. But like I've said, like always, like the point of this is to like inspire. Um,
Mm-hmm.
5% of it, like a very small percentage, is to create juicy drama, but a majority
Mm-hmm.
of it is to um the majority of it is to inspire people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it opens up like a door that people didn't know was there, like I said, and you know, it's crazy how the older we get, the more we talk about our trauma, because I feel like my generation was very it was looked down upon to talk about. We were raised by people who looked about like who did not like talking about trauma, so we never did. And it's awesome. It's crazy how once you start talking to people about the things you go through, um, they start relating. But that conversation is very hard to bring up. Like who wants to talk about that? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if you read it and you're like, oh my god, I went through something like that. Like I understand that. Like I get it. I don't want anyone to know I get it, but I get it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to inspire. Like I wanted to show people, like change people, like give people hope, give people a good laugh. I feel like there's a lot of good jokes in the book. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the main thing is to inspire. Like
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want a positive influence, like a positive wave of influence from this book.
Awesome. Right. I think we all want, I mean, out of the struggles that we have been going through, we all want um, people to at least learn one or two
Yeah,
uh, our lives. And I think to use that as an inspiration to better their lives, right? I
right,
think we all do not want the darkest moments that we've been going through. We don't want to put that on somebody else.
right,
And I guess with your book out here, people who are struggling to accept their sexuality, coming to terms with it,
right,
will find inspiration and courage to
right,
just show up in the world, just who they are,
right.
as who they are. All right. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience. Uh, you know. About your book, not just about your book, but also about your life and a little bit about what happened in between,
Yeah,
answering questions, readers' questions. I mean, those who are watching, the viewers' comments over here. Thank you so much. And also, thank you to all the amazing viewers out here who have joined us and also have supported us by sending in amazing comments, questions. We loved it. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you so much, Glenn, for also joining us for the interview today. And a happy belated birthday once again. And hopefully, when your new books are out, we will be able to have you again on show to talk about the books that are going to be coming on next, right? So Johan has said, rooting for that boy, Glenn. Much success. Thank
thank
you so
you.
much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, so hopefully we will be catching up soon when your new
Yeah,
books are out. So you say every June,
every June.
right? So it's going to be next year, June, so probably about 6 months' time.
Mhm.
So what's the progress like for the book, the
So
second book?
the first one was super sloppy. It was sloppy because I had to, get the small blog posts, and then I had
Yeah.
to change it, and then but this process is gonna be for the second one. It's gonna be way smoother. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's the cover art is already out, like already basically made.
Mm-hmm.
The storyline is basically already made.
Mm-hmm.
So once I finish writing it, it's just editing, and then
Mm-hmm.
now distributing. Now, getting it on platforms is going to be 10 times easier, because not only have I spoken directly to the platforms, I also have a distributor too, who eventually is going to put it in like bookstores and for physical copies.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be way easier now.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Glenn, for sharing your
Thank you.
experience. See you again. And I'll be putting this video up on YouTube and also on Instagram as well,
Okay.
right? So you will be having a lot more viewers
Okay.
from different platforms, on different platforms. So
Thank you.
hopefully that helps. And yeah, like Johan says, we can't wait for the next book. Definitely, we're excited. Uh, Thank you so much for all your love and support. We will see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a great weekend ahead.